touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kusa. You ain't here for my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all in Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get mad. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regret, we only facing the threat.
This is the sound of Erika Kirk.
It's a cut on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threat. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans, and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me?
Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, and don't forget to double check and make sure you're still subscribed to the channel, especially if you have not been receiving the notifications. Now, with that all been said, hello, Claudette, we the people. Okay, the elder Baba Rashawn Live is in the virtual building. Reggie, 57 Beige Fox. All right, let's get into it. Nene. All right, Desmond, Nubia Ross, Sheila, Trisha. Okay, so shout out, Love Christy. All right, shout out to all my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen, and a big shout out to my moderators because y'all know they be putting in work. I see you, G from the land, beloved. Okay, so Nessa G. Okay, so let's get into it. But before we do, let's have a brief word from my sponsor. Okay, Ashkan, I see you, beloved. Robert Dervis. Okay, Ozempic. No, Ozempic Prime. Okay, Queen Shay. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, and shout out to everybody just tuning in to the chat. All right, so that all been said, first things first, let's talk about Japan. Because Japan has joined the fight with South Africa against the genocide going on in the Gaza Strip. So let's get into it. And this is really big because, as we know, Japan's the only country that was ever hit by a nuclear bomb. And we all know who dropped it. Okay, so Japan has reportedly announced that it will join the genocide case against Israel initiated by South Africa at the International Court of Justice, known as the ICJ. Now, this move aligns Japan with South Africa's legal efforts regarding the conflict in Gaza. So Japan is they're joining the proceedings led by South Africa concerning these allegations. Now, this development comes amidst ongoing international scrutiny of the humanitarian situation in Gaza, where South Africa has filed detailed dossiers to the ICJ. Now, this position marks a significant stance regarding South Africa's genocide case against Israel. Now, earlier in 2024, Japan had stated that it was reviewing the ratification of the Genocide Convention while affirming its commitment to prosecuting such crimes through the International Criminal Court, known as the ICC. And you all know that recently Julius Malema was arrested and he's been sentenced to 5 years. I'm sure his attorneys, they appealed it right away. And so with that all being said, now you must remember that he was very much anti-Israel. He always spoke out against them. Okay, so please pay attention. I'm just wondering if that has anything to do with that conviction he got. Okay, now, so late April this month, the reports indicate that Japan announced its intention, to join the case. Now, while some sources clarify that there is no official verified confirmation yet from the Japanese government, the reported move is considered a major shift in global diplomacy. Japan joining South Africa in this movement would have several significant implications. First of all, a significant diplomatic shift. Historically, Japan has maintained a balanced approach to the Israel-Palestine conflict, often deferring to U.S. positions while remaining a major donor to Palestinian humanitarian causes. Formally joining the case would basically represent a proactive stance and a potential move away from strict alignment with U.S. foreign policy on the issue. Because previously they would just go along with whatever the U.S. was doing or whatever they were saying. So now that isn't the case. And also the second point is fortifying the Genocide Convention. So by intervening, Japan would join a growing list of over 14 countries, including Ireland, Spain, and Mexico, that have sought to present their legal interpretations of the 1948 Genocide Convention. Now, this broad participation strengthens the international legal framework and how the convention is applied to modern conflicts. The third thing is increased accountability and legal pressure. International isolation. So Japan's participation would deepen Israel's international isolation, making it harder for allies to maintain unconditional support. And it also has ICC influence because while the ICJ deals with state responsibility, a finding of genocide could increase pressure on the International Criminal Court to basically add genocide charges to existing arrest warrants for individual leaders, like Satan Yahoo, who's already got charges for crimes against humanity, and war crimes. And he's supposed to be on trial, but due to this war that he continues to have going on, he's basically, it's been postponed. The trial has been postponed. Now, with that all being said, it has an economic impact as well because some Japanese entities have already begun distancing themselves. For example, the trading firm known as Itochu. They cut ties with an Israeli defense contractor following earlier ICJ orders. And then the fourth thing they say is upholding the rules-based order. So as a country that relies heavily on international systems for trade and security, Japan's support for the ICJ case is seen by some experts as a necessary step to ensure international law is applied universally rather than selectively, like they've been doing. This is particularly relevant as Japan navigates regional security challenges and seeks to maintain the integrity of global rules. All right, so, and also I want to point out that the people from the Young Turks, they're saying that their families have been targeted and outspoken about is not real. And I'm going to go to the clip because I want you all to hear what they had to say about this. And it's just really amazing because they were talking about how they have these people within the United States that will go after people who criticize, not threaten, not try to perpetuate violence or anything, but who simply criticize is not real. And they will go after you. Now, you remember I showed you a video weeks ago where there was a lady who was like one of the Is Not Real officials, and she basically was saying this. She said, we will come after you thanks to Google. They can find you. They will prevent you from getting jobs. They will get you fired from your job. They will make you lose your business or go bankrupt if you have a business. They were just making all of these threats, and I find it very interesting that a group of people is allowed to do such things, okay, to innocent people, to people for merely voicing their opinions. Like, who the hell are they? Okay, that's what everyone should be asking themselves. Now, let's go to this video. I'm going to use an overlay. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
That have anti-BDS laws. Are you kidding me? I thought this was the country of free speech. I thought this is the country of free association.
What do those laws
do? They make it so that if you work in the government, you cannot protest Israel. You can't boycott them.
If you work in the government?
That's correct. If you're like a government contractor.
You mean if you're a private company that does government contracting?
That's correct.
You can't boycott Israel.
That's correct. You can't boycott Israel.
You better be careful, baby girl, because pretty soon every single one of your family members is going to get doxxed by the Israel first terrorists within our own borders. But if you're wondering who that was comedian Leonardo Joni on Tim Pool's show, where Tim Pool was pretending to not know what's going on in this country at all when it comes to an issue that he purported to care so much about, censorship. But there's a lot of censorship happening right now as it pertains to criticism over Israel. And Cenk and I have gotten a little taste of what it's like if you dare to criticize Israel. We're gonna get to that in just a minute, but first your 2 cents, Cenk.
Yeah, so Laura Loomer doxed my wife over the weekend, and then she did it again to Anna's husband. That's the second go around. So there are Israeli terrorists that are inside America, and their job is to terrorize innocent Americans who criticize Israel.
Pro-Israel terrorists.
Sorry, yes.
Because they're not all Israeli.
No, they're not Israeli. They're largely Americans who value Israel 10 billion times more than America. And in fact, they have great disdain for any Americans who object and try to literally ruin their lives and their families. And we're gonna prove it to you right here.
So, it started with Laura Loomer over the weekend, where she got very touchy when Cenk wondered, who's paying Laura Loomer? Like, she spends all day on X. Like, you can't bankroll your lifestyle by making money off X. Okay, like, who's paying you to live? Okay,
so by the way, that's not just conjecture. Wall Street Journal, I happened to read a story from a little while ago where Wall Street Journal confirmed that she has donors that finance what she does. And what she does is spread hatred and bigotry. She's an avowed racist and bigot towards Arabs and Muslims. And so who's funding that bigotry? I'll take a guess that those are the same people complaining about bigotry when it's anti-Semitism. The same people go, anti-Semitism is the worst thing in the world. And they're like, okay, now I'm gonna pay you a lot of money, Laura. Make sure everybody hates Muslims. We love bigotry when it comes to Muslims and now soon Christians. So who's financing her? And that was a very touchy thing for her.
Very touchy.
The people financing her are extremely wealthy and they go around in polite society and they pretend that they're wonderful people who care about bigotry. If their friends and their polite social circles found out that they're financing bigotry and hatred in this country,
Laura Loomer,
and financing people like Laura Loomer, it might get uncomfortable in the cocktail parties. So that's why she goes into hyperdrive to attack me and Anna.
So she posted, and I only have a portion of her post, but she's like, let me tell you a secret about Cenk Uygur and the way he lies about Jews while financially benefiting from them. Number one, neither Cenk nor I attack Jews, okay? Jewish people or people who believe in Judaism, practice Judaism. I've got no issue with Judaism. I have a problem with a political ideology, as Cenk does, that makes people think that it's okay to slaughter innocents to expand borders. And that's what's happening right now with Israel. That is not a commentary on the entire Jewish population. Now, if you happen to be a Jewish person who believes it's okay to slaughter people and steal land, yeah, I got a problem with you. Not because you're Jewish, I have a problem with you because of your ideology.
And because you're a deeply immoral person.
Exactly.
Okay.
As I would have the same problem with someone, let's say someone who's Christian and thinks the same thing, right? A Christian nation that wants to do the same thing. It's wrong, it is immoral, it is against all of my values. It's supposed to be against the values that we're all taught from a young age. But anyway, her post included menacing statements like, do all her Jewish clients in Beverly Hills know what a raging Jew hater and liar her Muslim pro-Hamas husband is? When has Cenk ever said he's pro-Hamas?
It doesn't matter.
Totally made up.
She just lies about everything. So she's targeting my wife. So what happened next is people started talking about where she has her office. So now we've got to worry about safety. And then she put up her picture and she put up her name and the name of her business.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
inciting violence, let's be clear.
Yeah. And then they started saying, okay, we're gonna find her clients and we're gonna tell them that she's a Jew hater. Not remotely true. Wendy doesn't care, doesn't touch these topics at all, okay? Let alone the fact that obviously we don't hate Jewish people. And it just.
Why do Zionists believe in collective punishment? I wanna know. Why do they think it's okay to go after family members? I mean, in the case of Israel, they'll just slaughter entire families, right? No matter what. But in this case, what do our spouses have to do with our political opinions? Which, by the way, are totally fine. Our political opinions are based in morality.
And besides which, we're Americans. We're allowed to have any opinion we like, okay? I know Israelis hate that. They hate our rights. They hate our freedom of speech. And people who are pro-Israel in this country who hire these Gestapo, these terrorists to try to terrorize any American. I've got more on that in a second. Look, one of the biggest problems with political media right now isn't just bias. It's how quickly the same story gets spun into two completely different realities, depending on who's telling it. That's why I recommend Ground News. It's a website and app that pulls together reporting from across the political spectrum so you can compare how the same story is being covered, who's covering it, and what kind of narrative they're pushing. Now take this story about Pete Hegseth refusing to rule out US troops on the ground in Iran. On Ground News, you can immediately see how differently outlets frame that same development. The Daily Signal downplays the danger by stressing that this isn't Iraq and that the war won't be endless. Meanwhile, NBC focuses on the important part, that directly through Ground News. But on top of that, not only do they go after your family, but they try to ruin their businesses, etc. So they started going on Yelp and doing low reviews for Wendy's business, and then writing terrible things, etc. So that an average person looking won't know that there's these weirdo terrorists inside the country that try to destroy any American who doesn't bow their heads. So, and then they started talking about all the different ways that they could destroy her family, or my family and her business. And if you read the justifications, it is really telling. They're like, it doesn't matter, they're against Israel, so their whole lives should be ruined. We should ruin their family, we should try to drive a wedge between them, destroy everything he has, destroy everything she has. You know who talks like that? Terrorists talk like that.
Yeah.
And that is their job, is to terrorize all of us so that we kneel to Israel. Every time you ring the bell.
Okay, so you all heard that. I find it all very interesting. Okay, it sounds like in the biblical days when the people who wouldn't bow down to the image of the golden calf, or more specifically, the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they wouldn't bow down and they were thrown into the fiery furnace. Like, that's your punishment because you won't do what we say. You won't yield to us. That's what it reminds me of. I find it all nefarious. Okay, quite frankly, it's almost hard to believe that these things happen. Okay, but anyway, it is what it is. Now that being said, let's talk about the Voter Rights Act, because the Supreme Court has done what Justice Roberts has long wanted to do, in my opinion. Okay, he's been wanting to do this. So let's talk about it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Okay, and that would be Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts. All right. So now here's what's going on. They just took a wrecking ball, basically, to the Voter Rights Act. Okay, they haven't repealed it or anything, but they have definitely gutted it. They have weakened it. Okay, so let's get into it. So the Voting Rights Act of 1965 has been called the crown jewel of the U.S. civil rights movement. But under a U.S. Supreme Court led for 2 decades by conservative Chief Justice John Roberts, experts say that jewel has lost its luster. So in a 6-3 ruling on Wednesday, powered by its conservative justices, the court gutted what scholars said was the last remaining pillar of the landmark law enacted after the Bloody Sunday March in Selma, Alabama, okay, with the aim of preventing racial discrimination in voting. So what do you think this means? Well, it basically means you're not going to be able to, complain about discrimination in voting. So the metaphor is a wrecking ball. According to Rick Hansen, he says he's an election law expert at UCLA, describing Roberts Court's approach to the Voting Rights Act, okay, or VRA as they call it. There are still parts of the VRA that are operative, but the 2 main pillars are now virtually dead, okay? They're dead in the water. Those provisions include Section 2, the subject of Wednesday's court ruling. You see, the decision which blocked an electoral map that had given Louisiana a second black majority U.S. House of Representatives district will make it harder for minorities to challenge electoral maps as racially discriminatory under the landmark civil rights law. Okay, please pay attention. Now, the ruling was issued with congressional elections looming in November, as President Donald Trump's fellow Republicans fight to maintain control of both the House and the Senate. Trump hailed Wednesday's ruling and said that he thinks Republican-led states would now want to reconfigure their voting maps. Okay? Supporters of the ruling, including John Yoo, who served as a Justice Department lawyer under Republican President George W. Bush, said it continues the court's campaign to ensure that the government obeys a colorblind constitution. Now, a sharp dissent authored by Justice Elena Kagan, joined by her 2 fellow liberals, cast the ruling as the latest chapter in the majority's now completed demolition of the Voter Rights Act. Kagan pointed to another ruling involving Section 2, in which the conservative majority court in 2021 endorsed Republican-backed measures in Arizona that a lower court said would disproportionately burden Black, Latino, and Native American voters. And you see what's so interesting about that is it's Black people, Latinos, and Native American voters. But the Latinos have so much to say about Black people, some of them, many of them, because they want to have a close proximity to whiteness. Little do they know. How do they not realize they will never see you as one of them? Okay, the things that they use to discriminate against us, they use also to discriminate against you. It is so ridiculous and clearly obtuse that they want to go against Black people. Like, we're not the ones oppressing you. We're not the ones trying to take away your rights. Okay, it's also ridiculous. The method of divide and conquer still remains the most strategic and the biggest tool in their arsenal in this country. Now, Kagan also cited a 2013 ruling authored by Roberts in a case involving Alabama's Shelby County that gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, a provision that had required states and locales with a history of racial discrimination to get federal approval to change voting laws. Now, Wednesday's ruling, Kagan says, is part of a set, saying that for over a decade, this court has had its sights on set on the Voting Rights Act. So the Voting Rights Act emerged in the aftermath of the pivotal 1965 Voting Rights March, in which hundreds of Black people crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma and were met by state troopers who waited against the crowds, swinging billy clubs. Now, days after that incident, now called Bloody Sunday, President Lyndon B. Johnson demanded that Congress approve voting rights legislation. Lawmakers passed the Voting Rights Act to broadly prohibit poll taxes, literacy tests, and other racially motivated policies that have been implemented by white leaders in certain states simply to prevent Black voters from casting ballots. So they're trying to take us back to Jim Crow. Okay, please pay attention. Now, the Voting Rights Act, Section 5, required jurisdictions with a history of racial discrimination to get federal approval to change voting laws and provided a formula for determining which states and locales were subject to the pre-clearance provision. In 2013, the Supreme Court appended these legal protections in a 5-4 ruling powered by the conservative justices in favor of officials from Alabama's Shelby County. The court then held that Congress had used outdated facts in continuing to force Alabama and 8 other states, mainly in the South, to get federal approval for rule changes affecting Black and other minority voters. The ruling left open the possibility of Congress devising a replacement formula for deciding which jurisdiction should be subjected to the pre-clearance requirement, although that never even happened. It also left the Voting Rights Act Section 2 untouched for the time being. Now, the law Section 2 was amended by Congress in 1982 to prohibit electoral maps that would result in undermining the clout of minority voters, even absent direct proof of racist intent. But for more than 4 decades, plaintiffs could win a Section 2 claim by showing, among other things, that a voting map had a racially discriminatory impact under this legal standard known as the results test. So the court's decision on Wednesday, however, effectively turned Section 2 into an intent test, according to experts. The ruling was authored by Justice Samuel Alito and joined by Roberts and 4 other conservative justices. It said the focus of Section 2 must center on the Constitution's prohibition on intentional racial discrimination under its 15th Amendment. Okay, so I just find this all very interesting because here's the thing. What this is going to do, basically, it's going to make it harder to challenge voting restrictions. Okay, that's what it's going to do. It's going to make it more difficult to prove that a voting law is discriminatory under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Are y'all getting it? And so what does this mean? Well, I'm so glad you asked. You see, it means that courts give states more leeway to justify voting rules. Like when they ask for ID, they pass ID laws, ballot collection limits, etc. Plaintiffs must meet a higher bar to prove discrimination. Now, some voting restrictions that might previously have been struck down are now more likely to be upheld. Do you get it? Do you all get that? So, now, like I said, the law hasn't been eliminated. It's just much weaker in its enforcement. Section 2, which the nationwide ban on racial discrimination in voting still applies. Laws can still be challenged in court. The Department of Justice still can sue states, but it's going to be a whole hell of a lot harder for you to prove your point. Okay? That's how they have set this whole thing up. So the bottom line is, though we still have the Voting Rights Law, the Voting Rights Act, the court has reduced the federal government's ability to proactively block discriminatory voting laws. Now the burden is more on individuals themselves or these organizations or activists to challenge those laws after they're enacted. All right. So what do y'all think about that? I find it all absolutely nefarious. Okay. They're trying to take us back to Jim Crow. All right. And this is Donald Trump. And this is who many people voted for. This is who many people voted for. Black MAGA. Where are y'all? Where is Black MAGA? Where is the Latinos for Trump? Okay. Do y'all see how this is? Definitely not good at all. But let's continue. Now, so the officer, Ashley Gonzalez. Let's talk about that. Ashley Gonzalez, the officer that came out calling us the N-word and all of that, you know, they wanted to let her resign rather than simply firing her. And I don't like that, because if you let her resign, she can go down the street and get another job somewhere else real easy. Okay, she gets to keep her benefits if she, you know, her pension or whatever. She should be fired. But so I saw Quanell X and Dr. Candace. They were talking about that. They've been reported on. I'm going to go to the footage. But here's another thing they were reporting on. There was a store in their community in Texas where some children left school. It's like a little convenience store. So some children had left school And one of the children had to really use the bathroom really bad, and they refused to let the little boy use the bathroom. Okay, these are elementary school kids, mind you. They refused to let him use the bathroom, and they told him to go around to the back outside like a dog. So he had to use it really bad. So he did that. And when he went back there, you know what they did? Grown people did this. It's like crazy. They went back there and recorded him taking a poop. And then they proceeded to show it to the other children, his classmates, to further embarrass and humiliate him. Now, that is so sick and disgusting. But the thing they didn't seem to realize with their ignorant selves and being so racist and deep, deviant, they didn't think about that's child porn. You have a little child back here with their pants and undies down using the bathroom, and you're recording them, and then you're showing it to people, and you're looking at them yourself. Okay, I would have them arrested, okay, on those charges. Okay, I would absolutely have them arrested. Now, with that all being said, let's go to them talking about this Ashley officer, Ashley Gonzalez. Also, there's people saying that she came out and issued an apology. That lady that gave the apology is not her. That is not the same person. And then there's another lady that looks more like her, and she's given an apology about something. That's not her either. That video was done in 2024. So there's people, the other lady who did the video, I saw Dr. Rashard Ritchie reporting on it yesterday. That's not Ashley Gonzalez. I don't know who that lady is. She's obviously trying to stir up racial tension or whatever by coming out and pretending to be that person and acting as though she's giving an apology. And even if that lady did come out and give an apology, I'm sure nobody wants to hear it. You said what you said. There's no need to apologize for being yourself. You're a racist piece of ish, and that's just what it is. Okay, so now that being said, let's go to the first clip. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Hey everybody, it's your good old buddy, Dr. Matthews. Good morning. Look here, before I start my day today, I just got off the phone with an informant that's right there in HPD. It's been brought to my attention that Ashley Gonzalez supposed to be meeting with the chief of HPD on tomorrow morning. And they supposed to be giving her the opportunity to resign. If she resigns, that means that she can go to another policing agency. But if HPD fires her, then that goes in her T-code jacket, and then that also helps with us going for the license. I want to be in front of HPD tomorrow. I'm gonna let you know the details. The community that's outraged, we all need to be out there, and we demand that she is fired. Period. No resignation, because you're not going to no other police agency, bitch. I'm not playing with your motherfucking ass. Everybody stay tuned. I'm gonna let y'all know what we're pulling up at.
And pull up they did. Okay, so let's go to the footage.
Gonna be some smoke in the city. If they turn around and give her the opportunity to resign, that's a slap in everybody's face. And I'm letting you know it's gonna be some smoke in the city.
Let me be crystal clear. I have no faith in HPD's administration in this case.
We are not gonna put up with it. We are not gonna put up with it. We want justice, no peace. And when we can't get it, we're gonna shut it down. We're gonna shut it down.
So before that happens, it's gonna be some smoke in the city. We are laying the groundwork for every city to watch what we're doing. Look how fast we moved on this. We can't no longer sit around and just talk about it on social media and don't put action behind it. It's gonna be some smoke in the
Hold on, beloveds. Okay, I was looking for my next clip. Here we go.
You had to call our bank to get it disputed. You had to call your bank to get it.
Now, hold on, beloveds. This is another thing they covered where this guy was being racist or whatever, and so they went and confronted him at his job. Y'all know they be working hard, boots on the ground.
Yeah, and he told us he worked outside. He said the operation manager. He's actually they said that they had to call their bank.
Would you like to rent a room?
Why would I want to rent a room and then you want to be racially biased to children and they families that look like me?
I'll have to ask you to leave if you don't want to.
I don't give a damn what you say. This is what I'm gonna tell you. Is that you're not going to be doing no racist stuff to none of my black people, and you should know damn better because you're a person of color just like us. You understand that? So I want you to understand is that if I get another call about this happening at this hotel, it's going to be a problem. And then I'm letting you know that I'm going to be letting Harris County know about that price gouging that you did during the hurricane. I'm letting you know I'm going to get you closed out because I got direct shocking video of what y'all did. And why they had to call their damn bank to try to get their money back. That's not what we doing. And so why would I want to rent a room and then y'all over here doing this here shit? Now, how would you like if I walked in here and say that it smells musty as hell and I look at you and say, is it you? Why would you think everybody smoke weed? None of them officers over here smoke no damn weed.
So
we all black.
I'll need you to leave the premises.
I don't got a problem leaving because when I leave this motherfucker, you gonna be closed the hell down. And I meant what I said. And I said what I said because I ain't playing that racist shit.
Ooh. She's not playing, folks. She stood on that business.
I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this shit, man. Because at the end of the day, we are in a time and place where this we don't got time for. We don't got time for this. We got enough to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Why would I want to come to a damn hotel and you over here being racist and stuff? You know what I mean? I even got my white cousins here from Tyler, Texas. Hell, they ain't racist.
What's up, white cousins? Hey, white cousins in the house. Yes, that's right.
And then my thing is, and why you want to sit over here?
That's right.
You want to sit over here and want to profile, you know, black people like we all smoke weed and stuff. We got black officers right here that don't smoke no damn weed, and they protect us. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not understanding. Then you gonna ask me, do I want to rent a room? I'm gonna close this motherfucker down. How disrespectful.
All right, folks.
I'm gonna close this motherfucker down. And I said what I said, I'm gonna close it down. I'm gonna report you to Harris County. I'm gonna be a commissioner's court, and I'm gonna shut it down. You're not gonna make no more money off my people. And I mean that. And y'all that's in this hotel, I said y'all get y'all asses out of here because they racist as hell. And I said what I said, and Dr. Matthews stand up.
Dang.
I advise if you got any problem, please call Dr. Matthews and Matthews. He get the job done. Trust me, he get the job done. And all means necessary. Trust me. Legit.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate everything you're doing for our family. We really appreciate you. And it's not about race, it's about heart and the right. And it's about our kids because they deserve this. So we thank you for it.
And it's just so interesting. These people want to be so racist and hateful, but they want to make our money. Like, sit down somewhere. Now, here's the latest report on Ashley Gonzalez.
All right, everybody, this is your good old buddy, Dr. Matthews here. I just got word from HPD leadership that Ashley Gonzalez has been fired. It is a new day in Houston, Texas. We set the play for the rest of the United States. HPD, thank you. Thank you. And any other you dirty cops, I'm coming after your ass with that belt. Bye.
Now, I want you all to pay attention because if there had been no community outreach, if nobody had, protested their decision, she would have been able to resign and just simply go somewhere else and get a job right down the street. Okay, and keep her benefits and everything else. I'm glad she got fired. That's what she needed. She should have never been allowed to be a police officer anyway, because at the end of the day, they do give them psych evals. Okay, and that's the purpose of them. Supposedly, that should be the purpose of them giving them these sort of tests to see what sort of mindset they have. Okay, but it seems like they want them to be racist. That's just what it seems like. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, let's go to this clip of Ro Khanna talking to Pete Kegsbreath. Okay, because y'all know they have him in the hot seat. Okay, and I showed you all some of the video footage yesterday. So let's continue. Let's go to Ro Khanna. He says, you don't even know what the average American is paying, just to show that he's out of touch with the common everyday citizens.
Used and what we paid for it. But when you add to that the damage that was done to our bases and today's dollars for buying replacement munitions and replacement aircrafts, what has the total cost been over the last 60 days?
That number right now reflects the total cost that we're seeing.
Including buying in today's dollars the new weapons and replacements, and including the damage there? That's your testimony?
If there's adjustments to that, I would defer to the comptroller on that.
And how much are you seeing in terms of, are you asking in terms of supplemental funding just for the Iran mission from this committee?
If and when a supplemental is submitted, the majority of it would not just be for,
what would be the ballpark for Iran?
Munitions related to the entirety of what we want to get done.
A number, what would you submit?
It would be within on Iran, it would be less than 25 billion, but there's a lot more we would ask for beyond just Iran.
You're saying it's 25 billion. Okay, I would just, if you come back, you want to revise those numbers, because all the experts are disagreeing with you when it comes to today's dollars and damage, but you can revise it. How much did it cost American taxpayers in terms of the strike to the Iranian school where kids were killed? Do you have that number in terms of the missiles we used?
As I've said, that unfortunate situation remains under investigation.
You don't know how much it costs the taxpayer,
but I wouldn't tie a cost to that, to anything.
It's a reasonable question, no, sir? I mean, our taxpayer money was going there. Do you know how much it will cost Americans in terms of their increased cost in gas and food over the next year because of the Iran war?
I would simply ask you what the cost is of an Iranian nuclear bomb.
I'm going to give you that opportunity.
I would simply ask you what you're playing gotcha questions about domestic things. I'm not.
You're saying it's a gotcha question to ask what it's going to be in terms of the increased cost.
Why won't you answer what it costs to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear bomb?
I give you that, sir. But let me.
What would it cost? What would you pay to ensure Iran doesn't get a nuclear bomb? What would you pay?
I reclaim my time. Do you not know? You had no one do the analysis of what the increased cost of gas and food on the American people are going to be?
What is the cost of Iran holding that straight at issue with nuclear weapons?
It's $631 billion, which means it's an increase of $5,000 a year for American households. Now, let me give you this point. You're saying that your operation is preventing a nuclear Iran. Will you acknowledge that there is an economic cost to the American people for doing what you believe is necessary to make Iran denuclear? Will you acknowledge the economic cost?
We have an incredible economic team that's managing this better than what the previous administration did to our economy, what the previous administration did with inflation,
you know what's upsetting? I reclaim my time.
COVID, and you're going to lecture this administration about the economy?
You know what is upsetting?
Incredible.
You didn't even do the analysis on how much it's costing the American people. It's one thing if you said, okay, it costs the American people $5,000, but we think it's worth it. That's what we've done in World War II and other wars. Here's what it costs. You got to pay for it. You don't even know what the average American is paying. You don't know what we paid in terms of the missiles that hit the Iranian school. You don't know what we're paying in terms of gas. You don't know what we're paying in terms of food. Your 25 billion number is totally off. It's the incompetence. It's the incompetence. Let me ask you this. Certainly, maybe here we'll find agreement. There was still 440 pounds of low-enriched uranium, correct, when President Obama, after the JCPOA? Is that accurate?
The amounts and types are classified.
Okay. Will you acknowledge that there were 970 pounds of uranium enriched after Trump tore up the JCPOA?
The JCPOA was a terrible deal that allowed Iran a path to a nuclear bomb.
You deal with vague platitudes. I'm asking you about numbers. Like, you don't know what gas costs. You don't know what food costs. You don't know what the operation costs. You know, I get sound bites, but how about numbers? Do you know how much the enriched uranium was after you ripped up the JCPOA? Trump did.
I'll give you a number. I know that, as was stated by early on, the price of gas is twice as expensive in California, your home state, as anywhere else in the country because of the horrible policies your state pursued.
You know what? It used to be that that type of stuff worked, and then you started to lose the people that you campaigned you wanted to be for, because you said you wouldn't get us into bad wars. You said you would bring down the prices. You know what I'm sad for? I'm sad for all the people who voted for Trump. I'm sad for them because you betrayed them. You betrayed a lot of that MAGA base. And you know who knows that? J.D. Vance knows that.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Bacon.
Okay, Cat's Breath is a whole clown as far as I'm concerned, okay? He's a straight up clown. And his ability to avoid directly answering the questions, just like the rest of Trump's ignorant administration, okay, it's just appalling. But let's go to this next clip where they talk about his incompetence. Then we're going to get into Erika Kirk after a couple more clips.
To Congress for the first time since his boss started a war with no stated purpose, no strategy, and no clear end game 58 days ago. And during that testimony in front of the House Armed Services Committee, Pete Hegseth reminded all of us that during this time of war, we have the most unqualified, the most unprepared, and the most clownish person ever to serve in that role.
Do you think we're winning?
Militarily on the battlefield, it's been an astounding military success.
No, but are we winning the war?
Absolutely.
Okay, so do you call Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz winning?
Well, I would say the blockade that we hold that doesn't allow anything to come in or out of Iranian ports.
Okay, so we've blockaded their blockade. So they blockaded us, and then we blockaded their blockade. That's like saying, tag, you're it.
I mean, what? I mean, good on Congressman Moulton for keeping a straight face during that exchange, of course. But it didn't stop there. There's much more. And before I play this next one, remember for months now, Hegseth and the entire Trump administration have justified the need for the war with Iran by saying that Iran was dangerously close to developing a nuclear weapon. That's been their mantra. Now, today, Hegseth couldn't seem to keep that story straight.
Their nuclear facilities have been obliterated. Underground, they're buried, and we're watching them 24/7. So we know where any nuclear material
reclaiming
might be.
my time for
we're
just a
watching
quick second here. We had to start this war, you just said, 60 days ago, because the nuclear weapon was an imminent threat. Now you're saying that it was completely obliterated?
They had not given up their nuclear ambitions.
I mean, the look on Adam Smith's face says it all. Okay, so with that logic, bombing is not about destroying the facilities. It's about making them give up their ambitions through bombing. How does that work exactly? And then there was what he had to say about the cost of the war.
Will you acknowledge the economic cost?
We have an incredible economic team that's managing this better than what the previous administration did to our economy, what the previous administration did for the inflation,
you know what's upsetting?
The administration did with COVID, and you're going to lecture this administration about the economy?
You know what is upsetting?
Incredible.
You didn't even do the analysis on how much it's costing the American people. You don't even know what the average American is paying. You don't know what we paid in terms of the missiles that hit the Iranian school. You don't know what we're paying in terms of gas. You don't know what we're paying in terms of food. Your 25 billion number is totally off. It's the incompetence.
And in a hearing that had a lot of alarming moments, the most damning one came when Hegseth was asked about the 6 Army Reserve soldiers who were killed by an Iranian drone strike in Kuwait on the first day of the war. It remains the deadliest attack on U.S. forces since the Iran war began. 6 troops were killed, dozens were wounded. And at the time, this was how Hegseth explained what happened.
You have air defenses, and the lot's coming in, and you hit most of it, and we absolutely do. We have incredible air defenders. Every once in a while, you might have one, unfortunately, we call it a squirter that makes its way through. And in that particular case, it happened to hit a tactical operations center that was fortified, but These are powerful weapons.
It appears that was a lie. Survivors of the attack told CBS News that area was not fortified. In fact, this particular unit was left dangerously exposed, as they described it. One soldier raised serious questions about why he and other troops were moved to this command post in Kuwait, which U.S. intelligence showed was on an Iranian target list. And in the interview I'm about to show you, CBS hid that soldier's identity because he was speaking out without the military's permission.
We moved closer to Iran, to a deeply unsafe area that was a known target.
So what was the reason that you were told for why you needed to be there?
I don't think there was a good reason ever articulated.
This horrific tragedy and that disgusting response from Pete Hegseth, all of it came to a head today when Democratic Congressman Pat Ryan of New York, a combat veteran and Bronze Star recipient, got his 5 minutes with Hegseth.
Head wounds, heavy bleeding, and then just shrapnel all over. So folks are bleeding from their abdomen, bleeding from arms, bleeding from legs. Secretary Hegseth, do you know who said that?
I'm not sure I do.
It was one of our soldiers describing the devastating Iranian drone strike at Port Shuaibah. Prior to the attack, officers on the ground knew our troops were vulnerable. In fact, they requested additional force protection. Did they receive it?
Wherever humanly possible, force protection and counter UAS was always made available.
They did not.
Now, Congressman Ryan was just getting started, and things only got more heated and tense from there.
So let's be clear, no counter drone capabilities, no counter rocket systems, no counter mortar or counter artillery, not even the basic overhead protection that you and I had 20 years ago in Iraq. And now 6 of our soldiers are dead. The next day, you downplayed the attack. You said it was a squirter that squeaked through fortified defenses. So are you saying that these soldiers, our soldiers who survived this horrific attack, are lying?
What I'm saying is before the commencement of the conflict, we put in maximum defensive posture we could.
That's a direct
We moved
contradiction to
70
what they said.
in this directing. Can I speak, or are you just going to monologue falsehoods all over the place?
It's not a falsehood.
We moved 7,500 troops off of
Reclaiming
the
my
X based
time.
on the intel.
Stop.
Based on the intel.
Stop. Reclaiming my time.
Because you yell doesn't
Are
make you right.
calling-
Just because you yell doesn't make you right.
I'm reclaiming my time on behalf of these survivors. You just said what they said is a falsehood.
Hegseth appeared to be performing grossly for an audience of one, as usual, knowing Donald Trump was likely watching. But to everyone else, he just looked like a liar and a fool. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Pat Ryan of New York. What was going through your head?
The brazenness of literally, these are surviving troops who, by the way, were so intimidated by Hegseth's sort of fear and intimidation campaign that they came forward, but they felt that they needed to be anonymized for their own protection. And I know a big part of that was they felt like him not taking this seriously. I mean, we have 50,000 more troops right now in the theater. And if we don't learn those lessons, that's putting them all at risk. And to see Hegseth just try to basically bully his way through that rather than taking accountability, it was pathetic. And so I was pissed. Not just personally, but you think about those soldiers we lost, the 30 wounded, their families. It's just so disrespectful.
We've seen you speak at campaign events passionately. We've seen you, speak on the floor about a range of issues. It seems like Secretary Hegseth particularly gets under your skin and what he has to say. Tell us more about that.
It is both personal, but it's personal because I really do think him being in this position of such grave responsibility and seriousness is just such an insult to the people that are serving, that are doing the right things, that are doing it in an apolitical way from a patriotic place of good faith. And then he comes in there today, for example, and in his opening remarks, deliberately chooses to say our greatest threat is not China or Russia or Iran, who we're at war with, by the way. It's Democrats and some Republicans, he said, who are whatever he said, whatever garbage BS he said. I mean, that in and of itself is both stunning.
Yeah, that's how he thinks about the opposition. And you're right, Claudette, he is drunk on power. Okay. And I'm not surprised that he said that the biggest threat is Democrats and then some Republicans, because just days ago, if I'm not mistaken, it was a report where Trump supposedly said something about the enemy is within. If the enemy is within, then that means he's talking about inside the United States. So he's talking about the United States citizens and likely those who oppose him, who oppose this war, who oppose his agendas. Okay, so these are people that he's talking about. Okay, please pay attention. Now I want to go to another clip. I'm going to go to one more clip. Hegseth is questioned about firing the Army Chief of Staff. Now, I want to watch this because I want to know what his reasoning is. Or is he going to give a reason or just keep playing the little game where he doesn't answer anything directly and tries to deflect and gaslight the entire time?
To use your words and your time for that. It turns out that Democrats, even Democrats in Congress, are patriots as well. We serve in our uniformed services. We admire and love our uniformed services, and we love our country just as much as Republicans do. In fact, in this body, I and Representative Bacon, who you just spoke to, led the junior enlisted pay raises that you now sit there and laud as your and take credit for. We led the closing of the BAH, which then you ended up poaching and using for other things. This body led and authorized Ukrainian funding that is now being withheld. You also, in your opening remarks, strangely admonished us here for not being patient with the results of your 2-month war, a war of your suggestion to this president, a war of your choice, a war you executed without congressional consultation. And so it shouldn't be shocking, sir, Mr. Secretary, that we have questions. Indeed, it's constitutionally our right to do so. So to be clear, despite a brilliant performance by our men and women in uniform, despite thousands of tactical successes, Iran still has nuclear material, still has air defenses, still has small boats, and still has the Strait. So despite the fact that your recent comments indicate that operations appear to be finished, it's clear there clearly is more work that needs to be done. As mentioned, today is indeed 60 days. So Mr. Secretary, how many more months, just order of magnitude, do you think that you're going to need to be able to conclude operations successfully? And how many more billions of dollars do you think you're going to ask this body for?
Well, as you know, and as the president has stated, you would never tell your adversary,
Sir,
especially once you've,
that is the line that you always,
especially once you've
give me an order of
decimated their military and you control their
3X,
trade,
4X.
how long you would be committed to the mission.
And the next thing that you mentioned in your opening
You know
remarks,
that.
Mr.
You would never do that.
Secretary, is that you called on, which astounded me, examples of the Afghanistan war, the Iraq war, and the Vietnam war.
Let me say this. He always ticks me off when he says, you know that. This is what Trump's administration does, and the Republicans in general. Please pay attention. When they don't want to answer something directly, then they'll tell the person asking the question, you know that. You don't know what. How are you going to tell somebody what the hell they know? Okay? But let's continue.
Those are stunning examples to me of something that didn't go our way. We had the opportunity to execute on those wars quite well, but we didn't accomplish any mission, in my opinion, and I think you would agree on that as well.
My point is this effort
So
is not those efforts.
That's exactly it. Is this war shaping up to be that war? Because it has every
We're shaping up to get the same kind of Democrats we got in those wars who were
And once
naysayers
again, you
from the
go back to
beginning,
parties.
undermining the
Can we
progress of
just have a
troops.
conversation
We're
about the
2
country
months
and the nation
in.
and not about parties.
The Democrat Party wanted to socially
Again,
engineer
we're
the
having
Department of War.
conversations about
We've had to undo that and get it to
this
a point where it's
country
capable
and
of
not
protecting
party.
power. And
Clearly,
that's
you're
exactly
not able
what
to
we've
have
done.
that conversation.
And
So I will
President
move
Trump has
on, sir,
rebuilt
and
it.
I'm going to reclaim my time. General George, let's talk about a guy who's a patriot. Somebody who every single person here in this dais and down there in that audience and out there in this world.
The fact that he doesn't want to answer the questions anyway, they should all do him like Jasmine Crockett does them. Don't ask them any questions. Just tell them what it is. And don't even give them a chance to speak because they're so irritating and so annoying. All they do is gaslight and deflect, and they never answer the questions directly anyway. They don't give you any information. So I wouldn't ask them any questions. I would just go in on them for filth.
Has huge admiration for. Why did he get fired?
Well, as with any moves we make with general officers, first of all, I thank them for their service. And ultimately,
My impression is you thanked him by a text or a phone call. You didn't even do it to his face.
out of respect for these officers, we never talk about the nature of their removal, but every one of them, including myself, knows that they serve at the pleasure of the president.
Him?
Ultimately, out of respect to these officers, we don't reveal it. However, I will note, it's very difficult to change the culture of a department that has been destroyed by the wrong perspectives.
So you think General George destroyed a culture?
There are many, we've gotten rid of many general officers in this administration because we need new leadership.
You have no way of explaining why you fired one of the most
He's saying that he, out of respect for them, if you had respect for them, you wouldn't have fired him for no damn reason. Because that's what he did. He fired that man for no good reason other than being a piece of ish. Okay? That's why he's not going to tell her why he did it. That's exactly why he's not going to tell her. And then next, I have another clip I want to go to where they ask about the 2 black officers. I almost forgot. We're going to go to that next, and then we'll move on to Erika Kirk.
Created a remarkable man who's
we needed new leadership.
That's and so your answer is a very immature way of responding to my request. My next question has to do with my remaining time about the fact that there apparently are orders that you've recently given to the Navy to detail officers to command billets in special operations where the people who you're detailing, have already received bad performance reviews. They've received negative fitness reports. Is there a truth to that statement, sir?
I'm not aware of what you're referring to.
Have you ever ordered the Navy to add officers who never screened for Special Operations Major Command to the promotion list for flag officer?
I'm not aware of what you're referring to.
All right, I'll take that for no. Thank you, I yield.
Generally yields back.
You know, for somebody who's supposed to be in charge, he darn sure pretends not to know a whole lot. Okay, that's what he does. Now let's see what he has to say about these 2 black officers. Because I'm dying to hear this. Hegseth asked why 2 female and 2 black officers were struck from promotion list by Derek Tran. Okay, Derek Tran's going to be asking the questions. So let's get into it. I'm sure to be more gaslighting as per usual.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman. Thank you, Secretary Hegseth, General Kane, Mr. Hurst, for being here today. You know, after I was honorably discharged from the Army Reserve, the GI Bill helped me go to school and ultimately become a lawyer. My focus was representing clients who were wrongfully terminated or faced discrimination and harassment at the work. Mr. Secretary, if I were in the courtroom trying to prove that you discriminate against our military heroes, I wouldn't have to look very far or very hard. In just 16 months, you have fired more than a dozen senior military leaders. You've delayed or canceled the promotion of even more. Your chief of staff told the Secretary of the Army that President Trump would not want to stand.
That's not true. That was totally false reporting.
I'm not getting to my question yet, Mr. Secretary. Yeah, you told the president, the Secretary of the Army that the president would not want to stand next to a black female officer at the military events. But, you know, despite all of this, I remain very hopeful that you can and will do better for the men and women who have dedicated their lives to protect our great country. You're here to ask for $1.5 trillion. That's a huge budget. And I want
Yes, D Major, he absolutely did say President Trump. I caught it too.
to make sure that you have the ability to manage it. Secretary Hegseth, you would agree with me when I say that we want the most qualified people in every position of our military, correct? That's a question.
Yes.
Thank you. General Kane, you would want the same?
Yes.
Thank you. You know, I share the bipartisan concern about the firing of General George. And what I and the American people want to know from you is, did you ask the president for his permission before you fired General George, Secretary Hegseth?
It is my responsibility to confer with the commander-in-chief on especially high-level personnel matters. And ultimately, I won't relay what was discussed, but he was aware of the action that would be taken.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And when you made the decision to fire General George, Did you consult Secretary Driscoll?
There had been multiple consultations over a year. Yes.
Do you and Secretary Driscoll have a good working relationship?
Yes, I appreciate the work he's doing for the Army.
And for the record, would you agree that Secretary Driscoll is doing a great job as the Secretary of the Army?
I appreciate the work that the Secretary is doing and made the personnel change based on the Chief of the Army.
In fact, he was so good that at his job that the president sent him to Ukraine to negotiate a peace deal. Do you know why the president chose to send him over you?
I'm grateful that the president puts in players at key moments to advance policy priorities, and that's what occurred there. And I was very supportive of it at the time.
Recently, Secretary Driscoll testified in front of the Appropriations Committee that he refused to strike the names of 2 female and 2 black officers from a promotion list due to their exemplary service, names which were ultimately removed. Did you order him to strike those names?
I know we removed those names. I did.
Okay. Why?
Trisha says they jump in during what you're asking to distract you. Yes, exactly, beloved. That's exactly what they do. When you're asking the question, they'll jump in, try to gaslight and deflect, and interrupt you to try to throw you off. That's exactly what he's doing. Okay, please pay attention.
Because we review every general officer. You mentioned 12 general officers have been reviewed. The number's much higher than that. I would also note that under Barack Obama, 197 general officers were removed. So this is not something specific to this administration. Every officer serves at the pleasure of the president. And when they need to be removed in order to ensure we have the right leadership in those services, I will make those calls regardless of what you might say from the dais.
You know, about a year ago, the Army began their transformation initiative. I'm all for modernization, but this process seems to have been completely rushed in a way that compromises our readiness, including deactivating a medical evacuation Black Hawk unit at Joint Training Forces Base, Los Alamitos. I've heard recently from senior Army officials who support slowing down the Army Transformation Initiative, specifically as it relates to aviation. Secretary Hegseth, can you commit to slowing down ATI as it relates to aviation?
There are multiple places inside ATI that we are reviewing to ensure that we do not create capability gaps inside today's Army based on the fights we have today and the fights of the future. And this budget reflects ensuring that we don't have any operational gaps in the Army or any of the services.
Mr. Secretary, during your opening, you brought up this beautiful slide, and you talked about the Arsenal of Freedom. It's the Arsenal of Freedom slide, talking about private investment, you know, from the $1.5 billion. RTX was on there, Boeing, GE, L3 Harris, Lockheed. My question to you is, do you or your wife have any personal investment in those companies?
No.
Thank you.
The jump.
He's so full of crap. Okay, he's so full of crap. Now, with that all being said, listen. These people are not going to ever get any answers out of these clowns because all they do is put on a whole clown show and sit up there and just gaslight the whole time, like I said. So with that being said, let's talk about this U.S. bill to grant Americans serving in the Israeli army same rights as U.S. troops. Okay, let's get into it. And then I promise we're going to Erika Kirk. Okay, you all see this? So U.S. lawmakers push to grant American soldiers serving in the Israeli army the same legal protections as U.S. troops, in a move without precedent for any other foreign army. Now, the bill would place some 20,000 dual citizens fighting for Israel on a legal par with Americans serving the U.S. Details of the Israel first carved out was reported in military.com. The legislation passing through Congress would, for the first time in American history, treat service in a foreign army as legally equivalent to service in the U.S. Armed Forces, but only where the foreign army is not Israeli occupation army. Okay, do y'all hear this? So for not for any other country, only is not real. House Resolution 8445, tabled by Republican Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, of Pennsylvania and Max Miller of Ohio would amend Title 38 of the U.S. Code so that Americans who fight for It's Not Real are treated in the same manner as service in the uniformed services of the U.S. Over 20,000 American citizens serving in the It's Not Real military are expected to benefit if the changes come into effect. How do we know that this wouldn't benefit all of the soldiers, whether they're Americans or not? We wouldn't know. Okay, that's the point. Okay, please pay attention. And how do we know that actually any of them are American soldiers? Okay, please pay attention. Now, U.S. veterans' benefits and military protections are under existing law tied to service in the American Armed Forces. The bill departs from that principle by extending two of the most consequential U.S. protections to Americans fighting for a foreign state. The Service Member Civil Relief Act caps interest rates on debt during active service and halts evictions and foreclosures. The Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act compels American employers to hold open the jobs of those called to service. Now, under H.R. 8445, an American returning from a tour with the IDF could demand their old job back from a U.S. employer, halt a foreclosure on a U.S. home, and benefit from interest rate caps on U.S. debt on the basis of foreign military service. Americans have served in foreign militaries for as long as the U.S. has existed, and the French Foreign Legion, in the Australian and New Zealand Armed Forces, and since 2022, and the International Legion for the Defense of Ukraine. No comparable legislation has ever been seriously advanced for any of those forces. The State Department's standing position is that Americans who fight abroad do so at their own risk and should not expect support from the U.S. government. So why is it different in this case? H.R. 8445 is therefore not part of a broader policy trend. It is exclusive to the IDF. IDF personnel, meanwhile, are already compensated by It's Not Real through stipends, housing assistance, post-service educational grants, and access to the national healthcare system, all funded by the Knesset. Now, the bill, nevertheless, asks American employers, banks, and courts to treat It's Not Real military service as if it had been performed for the U.S. Are y'all getting it? Who's really running stuff? The legislation is being pursued at a moment when American sentiment toward It's Not Real has shifted decisively in the opposite direction. Now, a Pew Research Center poll published last month found that 60% of Americans now hold an unfavorable view of It's Not Real, and I wonder why. Up nearly 20 percentage points since 2022. The proportion holding a very unfavorable view has tripled in that period. Now, among Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents, the figure has reached 80%. Even within the Republican coalition championing the bill, 57% of Republicans aged 18 to 49 hold an unfavorable view of It's Not Real. Critics have pointed out that American veterans' protections were built on a simple covenant. Those who serve the United States have a claim on the U.S. Extending these or those protections to Americans serving in foreign governments, and only one foreign government, establishes that the relevant criterion is no longer service to the country, but the identity of the country being served. Okay? H.R. 8445 has been referred to the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. All right, so I just wanted y'all to know that. Because in this country, they treat our veterans like pieces of ish. And as I've told you all a myriad of times, I help veterans, specifically disabled veterans, to file for their benefits so that they get the full benefits, because a lot of times they don't even want to give it to them. I have to go through so much paperwork. I have to get so many hospital documents. They always want more and more information. And these people, some of them are elderly. One man that I help is like 80-something years old. Okay? He has nerve damage. He has a hard time walking. He has damage to his hand. And they try to fight against giving these people their full benefits. That's why I feel like this paperwork, that's why they have to go through this. They don't want to pay them what they are owed. But yet, they can do this for a whole nother country. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. Now, with that all being said, let's go to Erika Kirk and this nefarious video that she did. And trust me, it backfired because all she was doing was trying to be emotionally manipulative, in my opinion. First of all, I want you to look at what she's wearing. Why is she dressed like a terrorist? Why is she dressed like a member of Al Qaeda or something? Okay, like she's about to go rob a bank, no less. Why is she dressed like she's about to perform a heist? Okay, I'm going to tell you why, in my opinion, because people have been going in on her about how she's acted since the passing of her husband. What about her wearing the sequins and the glitter and the glam and all of that, not acting as a real grieving widow. So I guess that's why she put on the all black, but she also is wearing the black cap to try to hide her eyes, in my opinion, because people are always talking about her eyes, okay? And the fact that she pretends to cry and there's never any tears. Okay, so let's get into it.
The journalists in that room have attempted to dehumanize me, and I wanted to meet some of them face to face, quite frankly. Why have a conversation about me when you can have a conversation with me?
Now, let me just say that she's actually talking about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. She's saying that's why she was there. She said that she went there so she could confront the journalists who've been talking about her face to face. Girl, that's not why you went. Stop the cap. That's not why you went. You went because you were invited. You just wanted to go.
I just want to go find
And here's the thing. No one would have really been clowning her for her crying at the scene of the shooting if they didn't think it was fake and if they didn't think that she was just being performative, because that's usually what she's being, in my opinion, is performative. Okay, that's what she's usually being. Now, with that all being said, let's go to the clips that I have of her. Here's the emotional manipulation. Please pay attention.
People saying I'm not fit to be CEO, and I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And here's what I've realized through all of this. Truly, having lived through quite literal hell these past 7 months, if you strip someone of their humanity long enough, you will arrive at the chilling conclusion that they don't deserve to exist at all. Every morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO. And I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And the list goes on and on and on. In this culture we're living in, absorbs disagreement as a form of personal betrayal. It turns having an opposing viewpoint into a moral crime worthy of punishment. And here's what I've realized through all of this. Truly, having lived through quite literal hell these past 7 months, if you strip someone of their humanity long enough, you will arrive at the
Okay, so I want you all to pay attention. She's trying to make people feel sorry for her. Okay, she's literally trying to make people feel sorry or trying to make people feel guilty about speaking on her, bringing up Drewski, okay, and then talking about whiteface. They're right. There's no such thing. Sit down somewhere. It pales in comparison to blackface. All right. Let's stop playing the victim, Erika Kirk, and then talking about the hell that she's been through for 7 months. For 7 months, we've seen her on podcasts laughing, being jovial, even days after her husband died. We saw this. Okay, we saw her having a good time. We saw her hugging on JD Vance. Okay, her hand on the back of his head, cradling his neck so affectionately. That's what we saw. We saw her all glitzed and glammed up at the correspondence dinner, then crying, fake tears, in my opinion. Okay, as she was rushed from the scene, I just want to go. Okay, she's very performative and fake and fraud. All right, to sit there dressed in all black, like I said, okay, like she's about to break into an art gallery and steal a Picasso painting or something. Girl, bye. Please sit down and have several seats, in fact. Okay, I just find it all interesting, but let's continue, beloved. Okay, Jay McClellan says she doesn't act like a grieving widow. Exactly, she never has. Now, I think that she absolutely had something to do with what happened to Charlie. Please.
Apologize to this content creator. I'm not trying to make any money from your video, but I want to play the entire video because there are many individuals that need to hear these words. I want to thank you for making this video, for speaking truth, and for saying things that needed to be said. I couldn't have said it better myself.
You haven't gotten a wall. You haven't had the swamp drained. You haven't gotten cheaper gas prices, cheaper grocery prices. Childcare is not more affordable. The war in Ukraine hasn't ended. You were promised no new wars, but we're in one. You haven't gotten your $5,000 Doge check. You haven't seen all of the files. You haven't seen arrest from the files. Some people would say you just got tricked, but I don't think that that's the case. I don't think it was ever about any of those things. What you have gotten that you wanted was the ability to feel connected to a large group of people that now feel comfortable outwardly expressing racism, misogyny, and prejudice at every turn. You're now able to be loud with your hate and comfortable in your day-to-day life, expressing your hate of other people, your hatred of other people and other people's lifestyles that don't align with yours. And to the people of color that support this, you think you're different. You think you're a hardworking Christian American and you're not the stereotypical person of color. And you want to separate yourself from those people because you're different. You think you're better than they are. You've worked hard. You aren't living off the government. You're married to your children's mother. But we had a Black family in the White House that was educated, had been working every single day of their adult lives, that were Christian, raising their children to be good humans, and white people still didn't accept them. These people that you're trying to be in a club with laughed at a video of them depicted as monkeys. It was never about the economy. It was never about family values. It was always about a majority of white Americans that felt like their lifestyles were being threatened by diversity. We are not safer in our country right now. We are not wealthier. We are not healthier. Our children are not thriving. This was always about being loud and proud about the people that you would not allow to sit at your table. And now you have that comfort of knowing that 51% of Americans voted and support the same hatred that you do. This is not what I want my account to be, but more people that look like me need to stand up and say something. My kids will know that no matter how white and middle class and average their lives are, that does not make them better than anyone else. And that we can disagree on economic policy. We can disagree on how we personally want to live our lives, but how other people live their lives, as long as it does not infringe upon our rights or affect the way that we live ours, it's none of our business. And that's my stance on government.
There was no divisive rhetoric. This was not a form of bullying. This was honesty. This was truth. So if you've made it through this entire video, you've heard these words, but yet you still support this administration, shame on you.
Okay, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right, and so is she. All right, and shout out to white people who actually speak up against racism, oppression. Okay, and all of these other systemic issues that we have in this country that people who look like me have to deal with, and other people, Black and brown. Okay, now Night Boomer says Erika Kirk dressed like she's in Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation music video. Okay, that's exactly how she was dressed. Okay, I don't know who she thought she was fooling, but that video backfired because everybody's just going in on her at this point. Okay, that's what they're doing. Kevin says, Shalom, Queen Ahmadiyyah. Shalom to you, beloved. I just want to say that I love your YouTube channel and your show. I always smash the like button and I always share it with myself on Facebook, on my Facebook Messenger, so I can revisit. Well, thank you, beloved. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being a supporter and for your kind words. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, now let's go to this News Nation report where they say enough is enough. Erika Kirk calls for an end to political violence. Does she, though? Does she really? Or does she add to it? Or is she part of the problem? Okay, I heard that she was Mossad. Okay, that's what I heard. Now, I can't substantiate it, but I have my own suspicions.
Inside that chaotic ballroom on Saturday night was Erika Kirk. The CEO of Turning Point USA was seen sobbing as she was rushed out by security.
I just want to go find.
Keep in mind, this violence on Saturday night came nearly 6 months after Erika's husband, Charlie Kirk, was himself killed by an assassin's bullet. On Monday, Kirk posted that Saturday was yet another traumatic example of the evil in our country and the continued rise in political violence, saying, "I'm taking time to spend with my family," and adding, "Enough is enough." She followed that up with another message on the Charlie Kirk Show today.
While we may have big problems with illegal immigration in this country, I have to tell you, we have an even bigger problem when it comes to the systemic indoctrination and radicalization of our own citizens. This is what got my husband killed. This is what has led to 3 legitimate attempts on President Trump's life.
A scheduled visit that Erika Kirk had on the campus of Iowa State University tomorrow with Vice President J.D. Vance has been canceled. TPUSA attributed that to a last-minute scheduling issue. For more, we're joined now by Andrew Colvett, spokesperson for Turning Point USA. Andrew, great to have you back. So,
I heard that just the other week, she went to a high school trying to go and spew her rhetoric there, and the people turned her away because the students didn't want to hear it. Okay? Now that's what I heard, but let's continue.
So did this cancellation have anything to do with what happened Saturday night? Because I can only imagine how distressing that was for Erika to be in that ballroom and hear that gunfire not 6 months after her husband was killed by an assassin.
Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with that, actually. Unfortunately, this was actually just a scheduling issue with the vice president's team and a scheduled, I guess it was a fundraising dinner that he was supposed to be at, or an event that he was supposed to be at that got postponed to the next Tuesday. We weren't able to work with the school to move our event.
Okay.
So they're unrelated in that, but 2 things can be true at once here.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a very, I guess it was a traumatic is the word that Erika used. I was in the room that day, Elizabeth. So I remember hiding under the tables myself, wondering, what just happened? Did they shoot the president? Did they shoot J.D. Vance? And just really having that weight hit home again, that this is the reality of the world that we live in and the country that we live in. And, so Erika is, using this moment, I think, as kind of a reset to kind of refocus and, spend time with her family and just take a pause. And I think that's great. But I will tell you, you saw her remarks this morning. She's very, very focused on what led up to Charlie's assassination, the underlying environment that made it possible. And, you see stories like the SPLC that came out last week. This is an organization that has fundraised hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars off of labeling people it has basic ideological agreements with as hate and hateful.
Yeah, they labeled Turning Point USA as a group to keep an eye on, and obviously Moms for Liberty, other groups that are conservative that were labeled with a by the SPLC as racist or hate groups. But I do want to come back to what Erika was saying when she said enough is enough. And she made the point that political violence, which we do seem to see an uptick in, it feels like it's spreading in this country, and it has to be. It is clearly related to the heightened rhetoric, not just from elected leaders, but especially from what you see online. It has become, sometimes when you go online, a cesspool of what people are saying and how hateful people can be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you look at Hassan Piker just did the interview, a podcast with the New York Times. This is a guy in the podcast that starts talking glowingly about social murder, quoting Engels from the 1800s as a rationale for assassinating Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. This is a guy that has called for blood in the streets of capitalists, and now he's being platformed by the New York Times. He's being used in campaigns with the Michigan Senate race. So these are not fringe things anymore. They are getting mainstreamed, and there is a whole infrastructure, a permission structure that supports these ideas and the dissemination of these ideas. And that's what was so troubling about Cole Allen at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, is that he was indiscernible, indistinguishable from some of the other voices that we hear on the nightly news, on social media, some of the people with the biggest followings. And so, yeah, enough is enough. If we cannot get unanimity around the fact that political assassinations and political violence is not okay in America, then we are truly in trouble. And so we have to all redouble our efforts and make sure that it is castigated, that it is roundly and swiftly disavowed in every corner. Because if we don't have that, what do we have?
Yeah.
America is lost without that.
Anything to lower the temperature and to remember, because it can be so easy when you start seeing all in this heightened rhetoric that we are all American, that we are all human, and vilifying people you don't agree with never ends well. It's not good for them. It's not good for you. You don't feel good.
That's right.
You know, when you do that. Andrew Colvett, thanks so much for joining us. As always, great to talk.
Okay, so with that all been said, listen, that's exactly what Trump's administration is doing, okay? Miss me with it. That's what they're doing. If Erika Kirk wants to complain about people stoking political violence, she should go talk to Trump. That's what she should do. It's amazing how they try to flip the script. Now, with that being said, we're almost done. Let's go into Mamdani, the mayor of New York. Let's go to, because he met with the king and queen, King Charles, okay, and Queen Camilla. Let's get into it. And then the last thing is Epstein victims supposedly have named more men. Okay, so we're going to go to that as well.
For all the skill needed to get elected New York City's mayor, Zohran Mamdani has one talent that might top them all: turning old foes into new friends and turning tense encounters into great PR. The mayor was all smiles as he greeted King Charles and Queen Camilla today at the 9/11 Memorial in Lower Manhattan. You might never know that he was throwing shade toward the royals and leading up to their visit here. The mayor made it clear before the ceremony that he was attending to honor the victims, lest anyone think he was there to honor the king. His office said there would be no private meeting between the mayor and the monarch. And at a press conference today before the ceremony, Mamdani said if he did have a chance to meet with the king, he would ask him to return the Koh-i-Noor diamond, which the king's mother, Queen Elizabeth II, wore in a crown. Critics of the monarchy have long accused the British of stealing that diamond from India. Mamdani has been open about his opposition to what the monarchy represents. His academic father's work focused on anti-colonialism. And just last month, in a speech for St. Patrick's Day, Mamdani focused on Ireland's strength when it stood up to British rule. The royal family's riches don't help the matter either. Mamdani's been leaning hard into his tax the rich agenda, proposing a brand new tax on luxury second homes in New York City, even targeting one Manhattan billionaire by name. You can imagine Mamdani's feelings about a family that could easily lose count of all its castles, palaces, towers, and estates. But after all the buildup, Mamdani once again managed to surprise. We can't hear what they're saying, but it's hard to imagine he's discussing any demands about returning massive diamonds. Not unlike his 2 visits to meet with President Trump, where after calling him a fascist, the 2 of them were standing there like they were best friends. Joining us now is News Nation correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera, and the host of Batya on News Nation, Batya Ungar-Sargon. Great to have you both here.
Nice to be here.
So what did you make, Geraldo? I'll start with you since you're sitting right next to me. What did you make of Mir Mamdani saying, I think I'm going to ask him to return this billion? You said it was worth $1 billion.
I think north of $1 billion.
North of $1 billion.
One of the biggest gems, uncut gems existent on Earth.
So is it just political posturing by Mamdani?
Yeah.
Why bring it up?
I mean, he's a communist, I think, but he's also well raised, and he did not use the occasion to insult the monarch in New York. New York is open to everybody, from communists to capitalists. We like them all, and you know, there is a drain of people who pay taxes in the town where the mayor has such an ambitious social agenda.
Yeah,
or someone say socialist
all that
agenda.
stuff.
Someone's got to pay for it all. But in this case, I think it was the tabloids really that were playing the mayor
Stirring
rather than the
pot.
mayor. Yeah. Just it was for a time. You know, I said, no, I can't believe here the king has come, and the king has been a stud. He has been so classy. He has done everything he can, and very effectively, I think, to repair the special relationship that the United States has with Great Britain.
At a time of great tension.
A great tension and war that Britain refuses to help us to participate in. So I thought that the stage was set for a catastrophe, but Mayor Mamdani proved that he really was up to the job. That his election's not an accident.
Okay. All right. We'll see. As a
Okay, so with that all being said, she said as a New York resident, the jury is still out. Okay, now let's go to this Epstein victims. They've supposedly named more men. And then also the last thing, there's an update on David. Now they're saying that David used a chainsaw to dismember Celeste. Okay, so we got to get into that. Okay, likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
They're the faceless figures in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring. Women and girls whose stories fill the Department of Justice files. Some explaining they were raped, others lent out to Epstein's friends, and another given sexual instructions for other men and trafficked. Epstein went to jail for sex trafficking. So did accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. But the Trump administration says evidence doesn't show other men participated in the abuse. From the FBI.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
To the DOJ.
Anybody with evidence, come to the FBI and tell us.
Victims did tell the FBI, but the files show little sign of any follow-up by investigators. A CNN review of the DOJ's own publicly released Epstein files finds more than a dozen times where victims told the FBI that Epstein facilitated sexual encounters with his rich and powerful network. In the pages of redacted reports, there's Wall Street executives, a wealthy psychiatrist, a now jailed film producer, a former prince. But here's what we can't find in the public files. Much evidence of further investigation after those women spoke to the FBI. What does justice at the end of the day look like for you?
Before we can even get to, to prosecution, we need investigation, right? And so unfortunately, what we're seeing right now is that there's been so little investigation.
Annie Farmer is an Epstein survivor. She says she was sexually abused by Epstein and his partner Ghislaine Maxwell when she was just 16. She's joined House Oversight Committee ranking member Robert Garcia in a public push for more accountability.
This is about some of the most powerful, wealthiest people believing that they can just get away with anything. And they empowered Jeffrey Epstein to be that person.
The files reveal how Epstein built a trafficking ring. The victims were teenagers or young women who needed money and influence to start.
I'm glad you said that. 901 baby boy says they don't need that much evidence to take down Black celebrities. Exactly. Okay, exactly. And that's just what I was sitting here thinking, that all of the things that these people have come out and said, all of the accusations that the victims and survivors have made, they want to say there's no credible evidence. They want to say there's no one else that was involved, but these women say that there were other people that were in fact involved, and they haven't been brought to justice. But the fact that they arrested and convicted not Bill Clinton, Bill Cosby, and put him in prison, even though he was never supposed to be prosecuted in the first place, and they did so based solely on the words of these women. They had no DNA test results. They had no tangible evidence. Okay? They only had the word of the accusers. Now, why is it that that was perfectly fine in the case with Bill Cosby, but that's not enough in the case of the Epstein debacle? Okay? I want you all to pay attention. And that's exactly what I was talking about when I was at the Diddy trial. They hold Black people to a different standard than they do their own. And they'll put somebody like Diddy, R. Kelly, Bill Cosby in prison. But when their people do it, these rich, elite, powerful people who have these high-ranking positions, whether they be politicians, actors and actresses, or whomever, at the end of the day, they will turn a blind eye and act as though the victims are lying, as though the victims don't even deserve justice. And in some cases in this country, the victims have actually been arrested and sent to prison themselves. Okay? Please pay attention.
Their lives. Epstein paid for gifts and exotic trips to his Caribbean island for parties. Victims told the FBI at first he seemed harmless. One victim told the Palm Beach Police Department 2 decades ago how Epstein would groom his victims.
The girl that meets Jeffrey starts off with giving him a massage. The more you do with him, the more you make.
In this 2021 report, a victim told the FBI she believed they trafficked me. She says Epstein sent her to Dr. Henry Jarecki, a renowned psychiatrist who could help her with college. This is Jarecki, pictured here with Epstein in the files. Because she really wanted to attend college, she says she gave Jarecki oral sex. There's no sign of an FBI investigation with Jarecki. He says he's never abused anyone. A wealthy banker named in an FBI report is Jess Staley.
I have had a long-standing professional relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
A woman told the FBI that she met Staley at Epstein's New York mansion. The woman says Epstein was paying for her to attend massage school and told her to give Staley a massage. Photos show Epstein owned an elaborate massage room. The massage ended in rough sex. She told Staley she did not want this. Federal investigators spoke to local cops about accusations against Staley, but the files don't show much follow-up. Staley said in court he did have sex with one of Epstein's assistants, but it was consensual.
I love doing business. My whole life I've enjoyed doing business.
Leon Black is a Wall Street titan. A woman said Epstein told her to massage Black, who started becoming sexual. She then...
Mind you, Leon Black is also the man who owned Life Touch, okay? The company that took the pictures of us all when we were in school. All right, please pay attention.
Ran out of the room. Another woman said Black raped her. Files show the DOJ spoke about Black with the Manhattan DA's office, which began looking into him, but he has not been charged for anything. An attorney for Black said he has never abused, assaulted, or raped any girl or woman, and the idea of doing so is repulsive and reprehensible to him.
It's just an absolute travesty, the way that the entire thing is played out.
Attorney Spencer Kuvin has represented multiple Epstein victims. One of his clients says Epstein and Maxwell loaned her to a corporate executive in Palm Beach, Florida.
Glenn approached her one day and said to her, look, I need you to go give somebody a massage. And she asked who, and they told her where she needed to go, and it was a home on the island. And she was essentially told, go give this particular man a massage the way that you give Jeffrey a massage. Girls were not people to him. They were objects to be traded. So he would utilize both underage victims, but he would also utilize other women who were over the age of 18 to satisfy men that he wanted to curry favor with.
You're almost talking about an economic ecosystem based on the abuse of women.
It was.
Victims say Epstein's favors involved famous people like film producer Harvey Weinstein. One victim says when she was 15, Epstein told her, "I have a friend staying over." She says the man abused her. An attorney showed her a photo of Weinstein and the woman identified him. Weinstein is in prison, but not for any Epstein-related crime. Through a spokesperson, Weinstein unequivocally denies the allegation and has no recollection of any such interaction. The files also name Prince Andrew in allegations from Virginia Giuffre. She told the FBI the then prince had sex with her when she was 17 years old.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
It's in the UK, not the US, where authorities moved, arresting Andrew on
Now, y'all know Prince Andrew's telling a whole darn lie because he's literally in a picture with her and Ghislaine talking about he has no recollection. Okay, just stop the cap.
allegations he shared sensitive information with Epstein. Andrew denies all allegations against him.
When I started to read some of these files, I was, even for a seasoned investigator, I had to pause.
Moses Castillo is a former LAPD sex crimes detective. He says he'd expect to see more basic investigation and follow-up in the files.
It's actually policing 101, police investigations 101, a sex crime detective 101. You would do all those things. You develop a game plan, a strategy in how you're going to investigate this. You check the flight. You check all the hotels. You check this victim said this and that. Can you go out there and corroborate that? So it's time consuming, but it's not impossible.
Castillo says one possible hurdle is victim cooperation. In the files, a woman accused President Trump of sexual assault. The FBI spoke with her 4 times, but says she ultimately refused to cooperate. The White House calls that allegation against Trump baseless. In an unusual turn in the Epstein saga, the First Lady, responding to what she calls lies about herself, is calling for Epstein's victims to have their voices heard in a public hearing.
Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone.
A renewed investigation is exactly what survivors like Annie Farmer have long wanted.
We have people that are able to make these statements about, oh, there's nothing more to see here. And we don't even know that that's true. We believe it's not true. But until they can show evidence of investigation, I think it would be very difficult to move on.
When you hear people say that Epstein's dead, Maxwell's in prison, it's over. What do you say to that?
It's not over. It's not over till the survivors feel that they have justice. There are those that enabled the abuse, that worked for Epstein. There were other powerful men that are walking around in corporate boardrooms and in government that need accountability.
And of course, they're going to deny the accusations. Why would we expect them to admit to it? Okay, why would we expect them to do anything other than lie and deny it? Because they're absolutely lying. I believe every last one of those witnesses. Okay, so these people are likely never going to get any consequences for what they've done. The government is covering it all up. Now, with that all been said, did you all know that Elon Musk was in court about OpenAI? He testified that he was a fool for providing funds to help start OpenAI, now one of the world's most valuable companies, during the trial over his lawsuit and OpenAI's profit conversion. So now he wants to cry foul. Is that what he wants to do? Okay, let's go to it because I just saw this. It just popped up. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Dark Titan said Melania is trying to get away from her part in it. Absolutely she is. Of course she is. That's why she did that video in the first place, trying to distance herself.
AI, he says they strayed from their original nonprofit mission. He's also saying a lot of other things. CNN's AI correspondent Hadass Gold at the trial in Oakland with the very latest. Good morning to you.
Hey, John, we are entering in Musk's 7th hour of testimony in this blockbuster trial against OpenAI that could completely change the future of the AI landscape and could potentially change the future for the ChatGPT maker OpenAI. Each side yesterday spent their time questioning Musk and trying to prove their side, whether he was deceived when he donated $38 million to OpenAI and then they turned their nonprofit into having a for-profit subsidiary, or whether he always wanted OpenAI to go for-profit in some way, but that he left when he couldn't control it anymore, and that this lawsuit is just about him trying to bring down a competitor since he has his own AI company, XAI. At one point yesterday, Elon Musk told the court, I was a fool. He says, I needed to make sure that OpenAI would go in the right direction, and I was providing almost all the money. He says, I was a fool. I gave them free funding to create a startup. Another piece of evidence that Elon Musk's lawyers introduced was a series of messages between him and OpenAI CEO Sam Altman in 2022. After a Microsoft investment, OpenAI was valued at $20 billion, and Musk told Altman what was going on here, and Altman responds, I agree, this feels bad. Musk told the court that interaction, he said it felt like a bait and switch. But on OpenAI's cross-examination, which started yesterday, their attorneys went to Musk and said, hey, here's some emails, here's some meeting notes where you say that OpenAI should probably go for profit. This is the only way they're going to get enough money to run all of that really expensive compute to be able to compete properly. They even showed meeting notes where he directed some of his executives to actually go and register a for-profit corporation. Musk told the court that in some cases he just didn't recall those conversations, and in other times he says he wasn't opposed to a for-profit subsidiary as long as it was a capped profit. There were some fireworks in court. I don't think Elon Musk is used to being talked to in the way that an attorney might cross-examine a witness on the stand. And there were some tense moments. At one point, OpenAI's attorney was trying to ask Elon Musk just yes or no questions. And Elon Musk was saying, you can't answer these with yes or no questions. He said, your questions are not simple. They're designed to trick me. And then he made the classic fallacy of have you stopped beating your wife comparison. But the judge was not going to go there, and she cut him off completely. Today, Elon Musk is going to be back on the stand. We expect another 2 hours or so of cross-examination and redirect. He is definitely one of the star witnesses in this case. This case is going to go on for another couple of weeks, and we're expecting to hear some of the biggest names in tech, including Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, and then OpenAI CEO Sam Altman will come up in the next couple.
Okay, now with that all been said, we're going to go to David, the update on David in a second, but I want you all to see this video first. This is a person who works with AI or used to work with AI, and here's what he had to say.
Every single day in ways that most of you have no idea about, and I need you to pay attention for a second. The head of AI safety at Anthropic, the company that builds Claude, resigned. His parting words were, the world is in peril. He said he's repeatedly seen how hard it is to let our values govern our actions, even inside the companies building this technology, and he's not the first. Safety researchers are leaving OpenAI, Anthropic, Google. The people whose entire job is to make sure this goes well are walking out the door. And the reason nobody is panicking is because you can't feel it yet. AI isn't coming for your job first, it's coming for your identity. When a machine can think, create, and strategize better than you, you don't just lose your income, you lose the story of who you are, your purpose, your sense of agency. Our entire civilization is held together by shared fictions. Work gives us meaning, status gives us worth, law keeps us safe. AI is about to move faster than any of those fictions can adapt, and when the story breaks, we break with it. We are not prepared, and I don't mean we need better regulation, I mean we need to fundamentally rethink what it means to be a human being when being useful is no longer enough. Because right now, the only thing most people have is their usefulness, and that's about to expire. I'm a software engineer, and
Now I want you all to think about what he said, because it reminds me of an episode of Twilight Zone. When they rehashed Twilight Zone years ago, the early 2000s, I believe, there was an episode where there was a guy, he came home to his wife and child. The child was an infant, and he came home to them, and he said that he had been out fighting or whatever, so supposedly there was a fight against AI, but in the video, they didn't call it AI, they were just saying robots, but there was a fight against the robots against the humans, because these robots had been created and they were very human-like, and the robots felt like they were more important than the humans. They felt like they were here first. And so there was like this war. So when the guy comes home, the way he's talking, you think that he is a human, because that's what it sounds like. But then at the end of the show, you realize that he's AI. And how you realize this is because the wife comes in and sits down and she puts the baby on a charger, like she plugs in something for the baby. So you now see they're robots, but they look human and they think that they're human. They think that they were here before the real people. Okay? This is all crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And it makes me think about this book that I read years ago about the Philadelphia experiment. And if you don't know about the Philadelphia experiment, you should look it up. But in that book, it said something about how in the future, there will be floating cities and everyone and everything will be controlled by a computer. Which, if you think about it, that's likely AI is what they were talking about. They probably didn't have a name for it back then, but I find it all interesting. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's go to this information on David. Terrion Lacey said, that story sounds fire, Queen. What's the name of it? It's the Philadelphia experiment. Oh, are you talking about the Twilight Zone episode? I don't remember the name of that episode. I'm sure if you looked up old Twilight Zone and typed in war against humans and robots or something like that, it would probably pop up, beloved. Okay, now let's see what they're talking about here, because they said David supposedly used a chainsaw to dismember her body.
Child sex abuse, chainsaws, and murder. The grisly new allegations and gruesome details in the killing of a 14-year-old girl and the pop star in jail for her murder. Prosecutors revealing those chilling allegations in a new court filing today. Eyewitness News reporter Liz Nagy following the story tonight. Liz.
Mark, the details alleged by prosecutors are frankly disgusting. In this preliminary 8-page brief signed by LA District Attorney Nathan Hochman, prosecutors paint a picture of a rising pop star who they say lured a young girl and then eliminated her when she threatened to expose their relationship and derail his fame.
Featured covered in blood and dragging a body in one of his many music videos, prosecutors described the pop singer David carrying out a real-life scene grossly similar to this production. In court for the second time today, attorneys for the singer, whose real name is David Burke, fought to seal the brief that prosecutors believe lays out a specific timeline and evidence of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez's murder. Prosecutors allege Rivas Hernandez and Burke first met when she was just 11 years old, and they have explicit sexual photos of the two. The brief also claims Burke stabbed Celeste several times and watched her bleed to death. In the days after prosecutors claimed David had slaughtered Rivas Hernandez, they say he purchased tools to dismember her body. Prosecutors say Amazon delivered 2 chainsaws, a body bag, and blue inflatable swimming pool to David's home, all ordered under a fake name. Prosecutors say David cut off 2 of her fingers because one of them had a tattoo of his name on it. Prosecutors also allege they have text messages that discuss sex between the two, her pregnancy, and an abortion, and text messages where Celeste threatens to expose Burke and destroy his career. In July, months after prosecutors say he'd stabbed her to death, Burke placed her body in the inflatable pool he'd ordered to prevent her blood from spilling onto his garage floor and used a chainsaw to cut off her limbs. Former prosecutor turned criminal defense attorney R.J. Dreiling says David's defense team will seize on one detail.
They note in their brief that David was sending text messages to Celeste after her death. They're going to use that to prove that, look, there's no way he knew that she was dead or responsible for it. He's still trying to communicate with her after her death.
No, we're not falling for that, honey. We're not falling for that. He was purposely texting her after he knew he killed her, so it would look like he didn't know what happened to her. And think about how calculating this was. So he thought ahead enough to get an inflatable pool to dismember her body in so the blood wouldn't get all over the floor, because you know the blood could be detected. Even if you clean it up, it could easily be detected with luminol, which crime scene investigators absolutely would come with. Okay, so he really thought this all out. Please pay attention, but got caught nonetheless.
Say rotted in pieces in the front of David's Tesla until investigators discovered the remains in September. 5 months after they say David Burke had murdered her.
The medical examiner's report released just last week had noted those pieces of blue plastic in Rivas Hernandez's remains. Prosecutors now say those pieces of blue plastic were pieces of the inflatable pool that they say David had placed her body in. Burke has pleaded not guilty. He will stay locked up in jail until his next court date in May. We're live downtown tonight.
Absolutely egregious, honey. You have to be a whole demon to even come up with something like this. Now, I'm going to go to this next report by CBS to see if they have any other information. They talk about prosecutors lay out the timeline and disturbing new details. So some of it's going to be repetitive, but let's see if there's anything else. I find this is just all so sick. This man is a whole sociopath. Okay, please pay attention.
Information about the murder case against singer David. He's accused of killing a 14-year-old girl to cover up his abuse of her. Prosecutors have revealed new details about Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Carter Evans has the story, and we warn you, some of the details are very disturbing.
Musician David was back in a Los Angeles court Wednesday as prosecutors laid out a disturbing timeline, highlighting grisly new details in their case against him in the murder of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. In a new court brief, prosecutors allege David, born David Anthony Burke, met Celeste when she was 11 and began sexually abusing her when she was 13. They claim they have explicit photos of the two documenting their relationship. According to the filing, prosecutors believe Celeste was upset about his relationship with other women, threatened to disclose their relationship to end his career and destroy his life. The documents claim David ordered Celeste a car to his home on April 23, 2025, and the two texted until she arrived at 10:10 p.m. Prosecutors say he texted her at 10:30 asking where she was. The brief alleges that was a premeditated plan to cover up her murder since they claim she was already dead. CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson.
One of the things that stood out is the prosecution laying out their theory of the motive, essentially saying that the victim here was going to expose David Burke.
Celeste's decomposed remains were discovered in September 2025, dismembered inside Burke's impounded Tesla. According to the brief, prosecutors say David bought 2 chainsaws, an inflatable pool, and a body bag online in May under a fake name.
We can expect that the defense will say there's no direct evidence or there are problems with the forensic evidence.
David pleaded not guilty to charges including first-degree murder with special circumstances. For CBS Mornings, I'm Carter Evans.
Ooh, honey, this is just all so sick. This is absolutely gruesome, okay? He definitely did it, in my opinion. I absolutely think so. Oh my goodness, it's just so sick. He did this to that poor baby. She was only 14 years old. First of all, let's just say he obviously groomed her, talking to her since she was 11. So he groomed her. That's what he did. And then got her to go off with him. This is all so sad. Anyway, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. Okay, hold on. There's one more report I want to go to. Have to let you all see this. I want you all to hear what this young man says about is not real. They've kidnapped some people, according to him. Now listen to this.
Israeli media has just claimed they've intercepted at least 7 civilian boats, part of the flotilla to Gaza, that's standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people who are suffering a genocide. These are citizens of countries all over the world. Your fellow citizens are being kidnapped right now by the Zionist military in international waters, hundreds of miles away from the coast of Palestine. Some protests have already erupted in response to this in places like Spain and Italy, calling on their governments to do something to hold Israel accountable for these crimes. Last fall, when the most recent flotilla before this was intercepted just 25 miles off the coast of Gaza, they almost made it. There were protests all over the world. 10 million people came out. After the last flotilla was intercepted, hundreds of activists and good human beings all over the world were thrown into Israeli prison and literally tortured. I'm even talking sexual abuse towards some of the people on the flotilla. by Israeli soldiers, by IDF soldiers. So I'm worried for what's going to happen. And Israel just recently passed a death penalty bill that was exclusively giving the death penalty to Palestinians and not Israelis. Straight up just an apartheid law, so they can kill off the 10,000 Palestinian hostages they're holding without charge in their prisons. And I know there are Palestinian friends of mine on this flotilla. What does that mean for them? I'll keep you updated on these unfolding events. You can watch a live stream as footage on the flotilla by going to this link here. You can watch a map that tracks the location of all the boats at this link here. Anyways, click the link.
Okay, that is absolutely sad and so nefarious. Okay, now let me just tell you all this before I close out. There's a young black man who did a video on TikTok that went viral, and then this white guy copied his exact video. And then when people started telling him you're copying, he was deleting their comments left and right. So I just want you all to pay attention, because remember, when TikTok first came out, there was a lot of controversy about white content creators who had bigger platforms stealing the content or copying the content of black people. You all remember that? And I want you all to pay attention, because this is the same stuff that I used to go through with Tisa Tell's lying self. This is why I used to go in on her and call her out. Remember, and her people will come up and say, oh, you're hating. No, I'm not hating. She's stealing my content, my intellectual property, copying me word for word, and I had a problem with it. Now, she doesn't do that now because she's not going to talk about politics. Okay, but when I was reporting on Diddy and all of that stuff, that's exactly what she was doing. So let's go to this video, because I want you all to see how people and also I figured out yesterday when I was telling you all about other content creators you could follow. Somebody said Lisa lies, and I thought they were talking about Lisa, my friend, but no, they meant Tisa, because I saw they went back and corrected it. It was Tisa Tells is who they were talking about. Okay, so listen to this.
There's a creator on here with almost 4 million followers who posted a video that I have been getting tagged in a lot over the past few days. People are basically saying that he plagiarized my content. To give you a little backstory, I posted this parody video of this place called Destination Smokehouse. They fired one of their black employees who coined this term tendernism. And since they fired him, they posted some videos of these really dry looking ribs.
You don't want it to fall off the bone. You don't really want a pull pork bite of this. You want to taste something where there's more pork flavor, more integrity left in the meat.
So I made a parody of that using a brick video. Look at that. You hear that? That's when you know. You really don't want it to fall off the bar. Really don't want it to fall off the bar. And it blows up. And it was just a video I was pretty proud of because it was original content. But then a few days later, I'm being tagged in comments of this video.
So you actually don't want the meat to fall right off the bone of your ribs, because then it loses its integrity as well. Yeah, look at that. That is exactly what you want with your ribs right there.
Now, I'll let you judge for yourself if you think that he got inspiration from my video or not. But there are definitely some similarities. So I started seeing comments like this. You should tag Corey McGlory since you're doing his skit. Corey did this first and you straight up copied, bro. And I would just say like, thank you or something like that. And this person says, stop stealing from black creators. This was originally done by Corey McGlory. And you get the point. So after reading a few more of those comments, I decided to just send him a quick message and kind of let him know what I was thinking about the idea. And I'll let you read it for yourself.
Okay, so it says, hey, Jake, people have been tagging me and sending me the brick video that you created based off my Destination Smokehouse video. As a major creator, it's really not a good look to use smaller creators' content ideas and not give them credit. Least you could have done was tagged me or something, but passing it off as your own, that's kind of the point of the skit with Mr. Tendernism and Destination Smokehouse in the first place. It absolutely is. The irony of it all. Because the whole thing with Destination Smokehouse is they tried to hijack, tried to trademark Mr. Tendernism's catchphrase. And that's why black people went in on them and stopped following them or whatever. And then they fired Mr. Tendernism and then tried to steal his stuff. Okay, so let's continue.
And I had not considered even making a video until today when I realized that some of my replies to comments that I was being tagged in with a screenshot of my original video in it were being deleted off of his video. Very curious, right? And look, I get it. Everybody uses everyone else's content. We all get inspiration from somewhere else. And I've had so many people use my video and put it into their own videos and cut it in different ways. And usually they were smaller creators and they don't give me any credit and things like that. I get that. I like knowing that my idea, my skit inspire other people to create content. But when you have a big creator that comes along and takes your whole idea, the whole concept of your skit that was made it funny and strips you completely out of it and passes it off as their own, and now their videos blowing up on Instagram and on TikTok, it just really diminishes the hard work you put into coming up with that idea in the first place. And
Exactly. Okay, exactly. And you know, the people who follow these people will very often try to defend their thievery, their theft of your intellectual property. That's what they'll do. Or they'll try to say, oh, you're just hating. That's just all to gaslight and deflect. So they have no problem with people stealing from smaller content creators. Okay, please pay attention.
The irony of it all is that the parody video that I made was about a white business owner trying to discredit his black employee who basically helped his business blow up in the first place. I really don't like to throw out very assumptive words like someone stole my content. I will let y'all basically decide that for yourself based on the information that I provided. My whole thing is, if a large creator did get inspiration from my video, it does not hurt their platform to just give a shout out or say video creds to so-and-so. But it takes away from the smaller creator because you're passing off their intellectual property as if it was your own, when you could have just benefited from it and also helped the smaller creator who you got the idea from. So I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what other people think about it. Should he have credited me? Does that?
Now, everybody doesn't do that. That's just what thieves do. That's what thieves do. He said he's not giving it any more energy, but that's exactly what he did. He stole his whole idea. Okay, that's right. Claudette says give credit where it's due. Exactly. Okay, I always do that. But some people want to act as though other people's ideas are their own. So they won't give you credit, but they'll just copy everything that you do and say. Okay, now here's this last clip where this little Lebanese girl who's 3 years old lost her life. Okay, let's get into it. Hold on. Queen, could you 3D print that Hegseth clown in your thumbnail into a bobblehead and use it for merch? Ha! That's a good one, beloved. Absolutely a good one.
Happened yesterday that you really should know about, but you won't because of where it happened. This is Mila. She's a 3-year-old girl. And until yesterday, she had a completely normal life. But yesterday, everything changed when Israel murdered her senselessly in southern Lebanon. So you might be thinking to yourself, like, how did I not hear about something so horrible as a innocent 3-year-old girl being brutally murdered yesterday? And it's because she's Lebanese and because the people who killed her are Israeli. And in the Western media, that means that her senseless murder does not matter and that she does not count. So that is why I'm making this post, so more people know that yesterday, Mila was murdered by Israel. Something happened yesterday.
Lord, honey, that is just so heartbreaking. That beautiful, sweet little baby. Okay? That is absolutely deplorable and egregious. And also, just for your FYI, I saw another video. There's a lady, I can't remember her name, but she's a white lady. She does videos on YouTube for teaching. She has like a program where she teaches children. Okay, like she reads to them, you know, she teaches them different things or whatever, and she has children on the podcast. Well, she had a little girl on there from Gaza. This little child was 3 years old, and she had an artificial leg. Okay, how do you think her leg was blown off? Okay, so these little children, even infants, I saw someone holding their dead infant. And I want you all to think about this, because the murdering of civilians in any time of war or whatever is absolutely inhumane, and it is a war crime. And everyone should speak against it because it's deplorable. Okay, so with that all being said, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. And until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Sold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me?